all you picture show perverts. Sugar Pants here, hoping you're all enjoying the vast underbelly of trashy talkies that I'm bringing to you. Today we take a magnifying lens to the 1986 anti-classic Necropolis, a skanky slice of celluloid about a reincarnated witch wreaking havoc on an unsuspecting New York City, reveling in the excess of the 80s. So let's get to that sleaze docket to see what this one's got for us. We have 9 dead bodies, 5 cups blood, 4 cups ectoplasm, 6 naked breasts, all on one woman. 2 ruptured ears, 1 wrist slashing, 3 cross impalements, 1 decapitation by cross, 1 handectomy, gratuitous stocking fondling, gratuitous interpretive dancing, gratuitous Paul Lynde impersonation, 1 Italian cop, 3 Jersey prostitutes, 4 assorted zombie-like creatures, 1 giant hairdo, and 1 giant lip mole. We begin, as most movies do, in the 17th century. Several individuals are walking through the fog machine forest, including classic Sindel from Mortal Kombat 3. Somewhere else in this universe, there's a wedding taking place. How are these two scenes related? It's hard to say. This guy's really bad at following, but then again, she's really lousy about knowing that she's being followed in broad daylight. Suddenly, we switch to a King Diamond concert where our main gal, Eva, is in the middle of a satanic ritual. Or she's playing Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know, the 80s had a lot of Satanic Panic. You know, I gotta admit, I like the dichotomy here of cutting back and forth between a satanic ritual and a religious wedding. A little voodoo causes the bride's hand to bleed, and she runs away from the ceremony straight to Eva, who slashes her throat. The instantaneously formed angry mob crashes the party, and Eva delivers this ham-fisted threat.
You will never kill me. I will walk this leg and seek my revenge.
And then, bam! It's 300 years later, and Eva's straddling a motorcycle in the 20th century with a pixie haircut and a brand new mole. Honestly, I like a movie that doesn't fuck around. Crank the synth pop and let's get going. Eva drives all day until she finds a Hot Topic run by off-brand Tommy Chong and demands the ring that he's been advertising. After getting the runaround, Eva lets this idiot know she's not screwing around.
You don't get me that ring, and I'll hang Rudy by his balls.
Placing the ring on her finger, Eva immediately knows it's a fake and demands the real thing. Captain Headband here says he sold it, but he won't say to whom. That's when Eva pulls her best Scanners impression until he gives up the name, Reverend Henry James. And since she doesn't need him anymore, she pops his ears and leaves him dead on the floor. Next stop, the local neighborhood center, where Eva barges into the men's room to meet up with the Reverend. She convinces the guy that she's being followed by the devil and begs for help. Her pretend sob story includes forgetting her name, not having any parents, and having no place to go. Eventually, the man offers her his cross, and she flinches at the offer and leaves. I suppose the whole point of that was to show the audience that Christianity is her kryptonite. Time for another music video. Honestly, Eva putting on and taking off stockings like this could be the entire movie, and I wouldn't complain one friggin' bit. Don't kink shame me! Hey look, it's the Xenomorph from Alien Resurrection. Eva dances around a makeshift altar, then heads out on her bike back to the neighborhood center, which has become a happening spot all of a sudden. Here we're introduced to Dawn, a journalist conducting an interview with Reverend Henry, who runs the center to help young runaways and junkies. One such youth is Philly, who tells of his time as a male prostitute to pay for drugs. Eva telepathically drums up his worst fears, drug withdrawals, and his fears of being a homosexual. Hey, just remember, this movie came out during the HIV crisis when it was a really lousy time to be LGBTQ. I can't even play this scene's audio because of all the homophobic slurs used. Sometimes these older movies can be a reminder of just how awful the time was for certain groups, and how far along we've actually progressed. Anyway, back to the movie. Henry takes Philly to the hospital. Eva, oof, those seams. uses this opportunity to get one of the volunteers at the center to let her into Henry's safe. He tells her to go away, but Eva always knows a person's deepest secrets. She gets into this guy's head and reminds him of the time he tried to commit suicide, and then convinces him to try again. Seriously, this bitch is ruthless! As he dies, Eva takes the keys to the safe, gets the ring, then jumps on her motorcycle for another nighttime shot where all you can see are headlights, taillights, and streetlights. Hey, that sounds like a country song. Headlights and taillights and streetlights. Eva breaks the lock on this gate and heads down into the sewers to summon the Children of the Dead? A bunch of Halloween masks and cloaks show up and start drooling all over the place. And this is one example of this movie's wasted potential. Spending just a little bit of time explaining what her exact plan is would have added some much-needed substance to this film. Back at the center, the police are investigating the suicide, but Henry's convinced there was no way he would kill himself. And that's when we're introduced to the movie's most annoying characters, Italian stallion cop Billy and coroner Paul Lynde.
So what's the shot, Betty? The Reverend here seems to think it was a murder.
No murder. It's suicide, honey. All right, the dead bodies are my business. Okay, Rev, baby? It's too late to save this soul.
Cher says that when she's 80, hers will be down to her hips. Her what?
Her halter tops.
Regardless of what Henry says, Billy is convinced it's just a suicide. Billy's got an 80's douchebag hard-on for Dawn and hovers around her like Guy Fieri on a rack of ribs. Dawn tells Billy that she met Henry over conversations about reincarnation, and he immediately says she should go home with him, but she flips the script on his ass and invites him back to her place. Their conversation is full of coincidences, like they've met before. Dawn gets a premonition about Eva and sees a throat being slashed. Some time passes and we catch up to Eva, who's mentally screwing with discount Cyndi Lauper and 80's Kylo Ren. In an alley, she convinces Kylo to turn to the dark side, give the devil his soul. And in this movie, that means gushing Caro syrup out of your forehead. High fructose soul. Maybe her plan is to put it in all our foods and make a society with fatty liver disease. Now that's an evil fucking plan. After taking his soul goo, Eva brands Kylo with her ring because we have to give Sheriff Dick for Brains a way to connect all the murders. Discount Cyndi Lauper finds Kylo's dead body, and Eva pounces on her too. And if you thought this movie wasn't anything special, just hold on to your horses, because we've come to the weirdest section of the whole movie. Eva goes back to the Children of the Dead and casts a spell over her torso that causes her to grow 4 extra breasts. Unfortunately, I can't show it to you, but trust me, she's suddenly twice as awesome as the Martian prostitute from Total Recall. And she did it 4 years earlier. Why is she doing this? Why, to feed the soul syrup to the children, of course. These zombies have to grow up big and strong, you know. Back to the alley, and we get another visit from coroner Paul Lynde, who is investigating Kylo Ren and Cyndi Lauper. Dawn asks if she can ride along with Billy to try and help figure out what's going on with these murders. Eva's looking for more souls and finds a pimp harassing his girls. Hey, look, it's Mona Lisa Saperstein.
Yo, do you want to have a threesome with us?
Yeah, okay.
Cool.
Sweet.
All right.
Eva moves in and takes the girls' customers, and it's another body for the pile. Dawn and Billy get a call of another homicide victim, and it's the guy who picked up Eva. For some reason, Henry's there and asking about the mark and the ectoplasm. Coroner Paul Lynde is still convinced
He died of a big, bad heart attack, okay?
but Billy wants more details and asks what Henry knows. Back at the center, he explains reincarnation and ectoplasm and tells the story of a 300-year-old witch, and then concludes by saying that people tend to reincarnate in groups, but Billy just doesn't accept any of it. Next day, Eva tails Dawn back to her apartment before going back to the wars and recreates her favorite scenes from The Real Housewives of New Jersey, as well as shows off her steel-like abs. She gets in a car with a pimp and wins another corn syrup soul. Seriously, she's gonna get diabetes at the rate she's going. Billy heads off to check out the voodoo shop Henry got the ring from and finds Eva's makeshift altar. He also finds the owner in the fridge. Hey, I just found a frozen corpse while investigating a string of murders that may or may not be caused by a witch from the 17th century. It's Miller time! Dawn is attacked at her apartment by one of the children of the dead, but gets away. I guess that means they've sucked enough of Eva's Tata syrup to be strong enough to leave the sewers. Henry goes with Dawn and explains the story about a witch that started a ritual hundreds of years ago, but never finished it. He believes Dawn is a part of it and goes to prepare for a fight. Eva does her Jedi mind trick once again and convinces Henry's assistant to kill him. She shoots him in the arm, but is able to fight just enough to put the next bullet through her own head instead of Henry. Billy checks in on Dawn at her apartment, but stupidly leaves her alone and she's attacked by another one of the dead, only this time she doesn't get away. Eva puts her on the altar and begins molesting a knife. Hey, at least she's not dancing this time. And with 10 minutes left in the movie, they finally tell us what Eva's doing.
Why do they want Dawn?
To get eternal life. They have to finish their ritual.
Henry and Billy go to Eva's lair and fight off the dead with their homemade crosses. Eva gets in Billy's head and tries to convince him to kill himself just like his partner did. He fights just enough to fire his gun into the air, and Henry throws a cross into Eva's belly. They get Dawn to safety, but Eva comes back while they try to burn down the lair. Billy cuts Eva's hand off while she's choking Henry, and she begs Satan to help her. Billy lights the gas and Henry says he needs to find the ring, but the building goes up in flames before he can do so. Cut to Eva's hand still wearing the ring and twitching. Skip ahead a bit of time and we see Billy and Dawn have finally hooked up. While Billy's in the shower, Eva's smoldering hand is crawling up the bed to get to Dawn. Oh, it was all just a dream. Or was it? Uh-oh. Eva wins. Oh, hey. I just realized. Eva. It's like evil. Evil wins. Yay! And that's Necropolis. But with the open ending, we're just left with so many questions. Like, what's Eva gonna do now? Will Henry continue to fight? What will happen to her stocking collection now that she's in a body with considerably shorter legs? Okay, maybe that last one's just for me. The biggest problem I have with this movie is the wasted potential. A 17th century witch coming to modern times to wreak havoc and do Satan's bidding is a pretty cool idea, but was executed infinitely better in the 1989 classic Warlock. To be honest, if you kinda like Necropolis, go see Warlock. It's more or less the exact same story, but a billion times better. It even stars another short-haired blonde in a delicious role. Although Julian Sands doesn't grow 6 boobs in his movie, so at least Leanne Baker has that going for her. Necropolis was distributed by Empire Pictures, but whenever someone mentions that studio, you usually think of movies like From Beyond, one of my all-time personal favorites, Reanimator, Troll, Ghoulies, Puppet Master, or even Creepazoids, but few people seem to mention Necropolis among those titles, and for good reason. While the idea was interesting, the execution is severely lacking. While not unwatchable, this is one of those movies you put on with a group of friends and have a good laugh over well-chosen beverages. Or other substances that I'm neither advocating nor denouncing. Leanne Baker, who played our main witchy bitch Eva, only starred in a handful of movies, including Breeders in 1986, which was the movie I put at the top of the list of worst movies I've ever seen, and it held that spot for a long time. In fact, it was the movie by which I judged all other bad movies, to the point where I would say things like, yeah, this movie's bad, but it's not Breeders bad. Jackie Fitz, who played Dawn, has literally done nothing else other than this movie, which I think is a shame, since she was kinda cute and probably could have done a lot more work if she had honed her acting skills a little. On the other side of that coin, Michael Conte, who played Italian stereotype cop Billy, only did one other movie, and I'm definitely glad for it. I mean, I don't want to dump all over someone, but when your entire performance is basically trying to imitate Sylvester Stallone from his porn movie, maybe it's best to go find something else to do for a living. But as bad as this movie was, it is leagues and leagues better than the steaming pile of fetid excrement they shat out in 2019 and dared to call Necropolis Legion. Ugh. A movie that's all filler and yet still couldn't make it to an hour in length. Oh sure, the IMDb page says it's 61 minutes long, but the end credits start at 59:40 and the opening credits are 2 minutes long, so you tell me. Obviously, since it's the 21st century, there's no existing IP we won't dig up for a lazy cash grab, and Legion is possibly one of the laziest cash grabs I've ever seen. But don't worry, kiddos, because I had to sit through that piece of shit, so I'm getting something for my time. So look for Necropolis Legion in a future episode. Well, that wraps up another episode, kids, so until I greet you again with another heapin' helping of motion picture mediocrity, this is your old pal Sugar Pants. See you in your dreams.
That witch did it. She's the one that done it. I told her not to go with her. She's a witch.